March 29 Indian Express News articles related to first article is Smith at Oscar in Los Angeles Sunday. Smith, who won the best actor of King Richard. That is what given. Next article is Eyes in Next article is the bill lets police take biosamples of accused. Oppo says draconian. Criminal procedure identification bill in Lok Sabha goes beyond print to eye scan. The government on Monday introduced Lok Sabha Criminal Procedure Identification Bill 2022, which authorizes the police to take measurements to tag those who have convicted and arrested or detained, including impression of fingerprint, palm print, footprint, photos, iris, retina scans, and analysis of physical and biological samples and behavioral attributes, including signature and handwriting. Article 23 related to self-incrimination, and Article 21 of Protection of Life and Liberty safeguards laid down by Supreme Court. The bill seeks to widen the scope of existing law. The Identification of Prisoners Act 1920, under which the measurements of only finger impressions and foot impressions are allowed. It also does the way with conditions of an offence being punishable by at least 1 year or more imprisonment for the measurement to be taken. It only grants an exemption in the form of mandatory consent for biological samples. Let us see this article in detail. What it is all about. Center introduced the Criminal Procedure Identification Bill 2022. The bill introduced by Home Minister seeks to authorize taking biometric measurement of the convict and other person for the purpose of identification and investigation in criminal matters to preserve the record. It will repeal the Identification of Prisoners Act 1920, provides for the collection of only fingerprints and footprints. Key highlight of the bill is provides legal sanction to police to collect the physical and biological sample of the convict as well as the person accused of crime to preserve the records of the purpose for identification. Defines measurement to include finger impression, palm impression, palm print, footprint, impression, photograph, iris, retina scan. Record of measurement shall be retained for a period of 75 years from the date of collection. The purpose of collection of behavioral attributes including signature and handwriting or other examination referred under Section 53 of the Criminal Procedure Code 1973 empowers the National Crime Record Bureau to collect the samples and preserve the records of measurements for sharing, dissemination, destruction and disposal of records. Law applies to 3 categories of individual, that is any person convicted, arrested or held any preventive detention law. Issues with the bill are it violates the fundamental rights of the citizens including Article 23 and right to life and privacy under Article 21 of the Constitution, and lack of clarity as the impression of other person is not defined, and violates the rights to be forgotten recognized by Supreme Court in Justice Puttaswamy versus Union of India case. Next article that we are moving into is related to Eyes in Ocean, Unique ID Culture Ties, India Lanka Seal Packs Beyond Aid, Agreement for Indian Drone Aircraft for Sri Lankan Air Force. Delhi and Colombo are stepping up their cooperation in the Indian Ocean and Maritime Rescue Coordination Center to set up the Bharat Electronic Limited and Sri Lankan Naval Headquarters in Colombo. Diplomatic space. India-Lanka ties. Another MOU is for India to set up a hybrid solar and wind farm in 3 islands of Jaffna when Sri Lanka cancelled similar projects after Delhi objected it to security grounds. And also $15 million for maintenance of Buddhist sites in Sri Lanka. Another agreement is for collaboration between Sushma Swaraj Institute of Foreign Service and Colombo-based Bandaranaike International Diplomatic Training Institute. Under the terms of MRCC agreement, a maritime rescue subcenter will come at Hambantota. Bill will set up MRCC network of 7 subunits in naval bases along the entire Sri Lankan coast: Gali in south, Arkum Bay, Batikola, Trincomalee, Kallava on the eastern coast, and Mullikulam and Point Pedro in the north. MRCC network is meant to give Sri Lanka present search and rescue operation more capacity and depth, improve direct communication in case India's help is required. Last year, Indian Coast Guard helped out with 2 ships that went up in flames in Sri Lankan waters. Also, Colombian Security Conclave. Jaishankar is on visit to Colombo for the ministerial meet of BIMSTEC regional groupings, whose members are Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand and Sri Lanka. MOU on implementation of Sri Lankan Unique Digital Identity Program with grants as grant assistance. Okay. Next article is diplomatic space. Along with the abstention, India has made statements underlining 3 core principles: UN Charter, international law, territorial integrity and sovereignty. This has reassured the US-led West that Delhi is not echoing the Russian line that Moscow faces an existential threat from NATO. India and Russia is work in progress. We need to work together. Okay. How India's defense supplies are closely tied to its threat from China, common challenge to both US and India. West also hopes that India will maintain leverage with Putin. PM Modi has spoken to Putin thrice since the war began, so that Delhi can be used to deliver messages. If such a need arises, India has the potential of becoming an effective, powerful intermediary if the situation demands. It hopes it can end the war by grabbing Donetsk as a part of its territory and influence Kyiv. Whoever is there in power, India is a friend and it understands the threat from foreign power in its backyard, so their position is quite evolved. The initial exercise of piling pressure on Delhi to condemn the Russian action has to be futile. Sensing a gap between India and the West, China, which had been baking Putin, made an extraordinary outreach by sending Foreign Minister Wang to Delhi, despite sharply worded critical statement by Delhi against him. Beijing's position at Organization of Islamic Cooperation, Jaishankar made it quite plain that there is a distinction between India's China's position on Russian war on Ukraine. Okay. The next article that we are moving into is related to Twitter not bothered about sensitivities of people in other regions, says Delhi High Court. So Delhi High Court on Monday criticized Twitter for not acting fast enough to block the accounts of an atheistic organization accused of repeatedly posting blasphemous content about Hindu deity. The court observed that the social media website would have been more sensitive had the content been about another religion, and told the company to show it the laws that states action against offensive tweets can only be taken following a court order. It is ultimately boiling down to this, that people you feel sensitive about the content, you will block them. You are not bothered about sensitivities of other people in the region of the world or other ethnicities. Okay. Is there any obligation on its part to keep on watch? It's find out if they are posting something offensive. It is supposed to block an account in case of repeated complaints, or only remove content every time there is a complaint. Endangered olive ridleys find a new home for nesting. Mouth of river Rushikulya in Ganjam district of Odisha. It's the second rookery or breeding ground is the second largest in India, only after Gahirmata beach in Kendrapara district of Odisha. Wildlife enthusiasts have been raising concerns over the sea erosion and changing course of river triggered by changing climatic conditions, stating that it may create problem for the turtles, as climbing up the beach for nesting will be tough for them. Okay. Next article is besieged Colombo. Economic crisis in the island nation has provided an opportunity for Sri Lanka and India to deepen their relationship. Arrival of refugees from Sri Lanka in Rameshwaram last week has only underlined the serious economic crisis playing out in the island nation. They are forced to flee the country because food and work had become scarce in towns and villages. Newspapers have suspended the publication due to shortage of newsprint, and food inflation has shot up dramatically. The report pointed out that bleak scenario with the Rajapaksa government forced to deploy security personnel at petrol pumps to manage the fuel ration. Street protests have become regular feature as people struggle to make ends meet. This is a follow-up to $2.4 billion financial aid India has extended over the past few months. At the heart of the crisis in Sri Lanka, mounting debt, which has drained the country of foreign currency so much so that it can even pay for fuel and food grain imports. Tourism, the bedrock of Sri Lankan economy, has hit badly, first by eastern bombing in 2019 and then COVID pandemic. War in Ukraine has disrupted the supply routes, leading to shortage of essential goods. An ill-timed plan to promote organic farming has fueled fertilizer shortage and fall in output. 2015, the country has borrowed heavily, particularly from China, to build infrastructure, including mega port of Port City in Hambantota. These capital incentive projects did not deliver the expected returns, which have left the economy reeling under the mountains of debt. Colombo owes Beijing around 3 billion, for instance. Trincomalee oil tank farms, renewable power projects, and cultural center in Jaffna, including extending a credit line. The Delhi has started a series of joint projects. Let us continue the video in the next part. Thank you. If you like the video, please do share, comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you.